Welcome, everybody. It's Michael Murray with Benzinga. We are here on the All Access show this morning. Spencer Israel is out of town enjoying the city of Las Vegas, but we have a wonderful guest lined up on this morning's All Access show. A couple of housekeeping items, as Spencer always reminds me before we get started. This is the All Access show. The All Access is one of the ways that Benzinga monetizes our channel. It is paid for by every company that comes on, but they are not prepared for the questions that we're giving them, and they are expecting questions from the chat. So if there's any questions that you have, drop them in. We will do our best to answer them. So, as mentioned, unless we have anything else from the producers before we get started, we're going to bring on our guest for today's All Access show, Doron Cohadier from Foresight Autonomous.
Good morning, Michael. Good morning, everyone.
Good. Looks like you can hear us
How are
now.
you?
How are you doing, Doron? Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. We had a couple of cancellations this morning. It's a crazy schedule for many people right now, we know, especially with Q1 coming to an end, but we're glad that you're here with us. Doron, I'd like to start things off. Can you give us an intro to Foresight Autonomous and what you guys do with the company?
Okay, what I'll do, first let's talk a little bit about Foresight Autonomous. I don't know if we have a slide here of the structure, so we can bring it up so we can talk a little bit about it. Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, so first of all, Foresight Autonomous Holding is a duly traded company called it's ticked as FRSX. The main shareholder, top right, is a company called Magna BSP. It's a company specializing in surveillance solutions based on stereo vision in the defense world. Okay, and they've been doing so for the last 20 years. They hold a little bit more than 7%. All the rest are public float. Underneath the trading entity, there are three companies. Foresight Automotive, this is where I come from. Basically, we're taking automotive stereo vision to the future, and I'll mainly elaborate on Foresight Automotive in this session. Underneath it, Inet Mobile. Inet Mobile, fully owned by Foresight Automotive. It's a cellular-based accident prevention solution. That's what they're developing. It started within Foresight Automotive, and then in 2018 was spun out as a separate company. It's in its early stage of commercialization with a few contracts and projects in place. On the right-hand side, Rail Vision. Rail Vision, first of all, it's a pure financial investment from our point, which we hold approximately 20%. Rail Vision, they're developing a safety solution for the railway industry. Similar to Inet, it's in its early stage of commercialization. They have a few contracts and projects in place. And just to mention that a couple of days ago, they actually joined the NASDAQ for an IPO. Now, the link between the three companies, Foresight Automotive, Inet, and Rail Vision, is basically accelerating and enhancing safety across the entire transportation ecosystem. So this is in a nutshell who is the group. I want to focus in and talk a little bit about Foresight. Foresight Automotive, basically Foresight Automotive, if you can have that slide as well about Foresight. We're actually developing 3D perception solutions based on stereo to ADAS, Advanced Driver Assistance Systems, all the way up to autonomous driving. Basically, we're a software company. We use hardware, but the hardware is off the shelf. We're a spin-off of Magna BSP, the main shareholder. Okay, so we didn't start from scratch. And what we do, we actually develop unique passive 3D perception solution based on the next generation of stereo, of completely separating the cameras and adding on top to that thermal technology for enabling seeing through harsh weather and lighting conditions. Just to very quickly touch about our offerings, for example, we can generate 3D stereo perception from existing mono cameras, and hopefully we'll talk about it soon. And this is a very big thing. By separating the cameras, that's another thing. We can increase the baseline, the distance between the cameras, and see much, much further down the road with much better accuracies. And that's a big thing in the automotive market, a big demand for this. And I mentioned thermals, and we use, for example, thermal stereo for dealing, as I mentioned, in harsh weather and lighting conditions. So this is really, in a nutshell, who we are and what we do.
Okay, fantastic. Now, let's take a little bit of a deeper dive into some of the other business units, too, before we talk about what you just covered. Inet and Rail Vision. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about those units and what they do?
Yeah, Inet Mobile basically is developing an application that sits on your mobile phone. But this is not actually by downloading it from Google Apps. They basically developed a software development kit, a layer of software, in which they're looking for third-party integrators to team up with them. Let's take, for the sake of the example, a navigation company, okay, that uses a GPS. They require GPS for the technology. And for the sake of the example, let's take Waze. So they can actually knock on Waze's door, add a layer of software, and presto, whoever uses now Waze are now protected by Inet. How does it work? Very quickly. Once it's downloaded on your mobile phone, it actually sends its location to a server. And this server, within a specific radius, collects the locations, only locations, completely anonymously, only the locations of the mobile phones within that radius, transmits the location to all the others. So everyone is aware of where all the others are within the radius. Now, everyone has a direction and a speed it's going. So they have a sort of a virtual beam created by these mobile phones. And for example, if a car and a cyclist enter a junction, even without seeing each other, the vertical beams will touch, they'll get an alert, and hopefully, hit the brakes and avoid an accident. So this is high level what Inet do. Rail vision, it's a different world in rail vision. Rail vision use vision solutions different than what we do at Foresight Automotive. We do it in stereo, they do it in other ways. But basically, there are safety. They have a safety. They're focusing on safety for seeing up to 2 kilometers down the road, or down the rails, as we say. And this actually allows to see up to 2 kilometers under any weather and lighting conditions, and alerts the driver to hit the brakes if there's something out there. So as you can see, it's safety from different aspects from each one of these companies.
Yeah, that makes sense. When you talk about the safety aspect too, right? Can you talk about what differentiates this technology from LiDAR? There's a lot of conversation about LiDAR developing, and we've actually had a lot of companies on that work with LiDAR. But what sets you guys apart from LiDAR and how that technology functions?
Okay, good question. When you compare our technology, first of all, it's very important to understand what's stereo. We see the world in 3D, okay, as like the LiDAR. However, we do it passively, okay? What do we mean by passive? We stare at the environment. We do not emit any energy, and we collect the information just by staring at it. A LiDAR uses a different method. They actually sends a laser beam in order to hit the object, get a reflection, and then understands what's out there. So this is passive versus active. Now, being passive, it's a great thing, okay? Main advantages of being passive, for example, we'll talk, I presume, later on about the markets, but defense world, you don't want to be detected. You want to be in stealth mode. So by being passive, you cannot be detected. Active, not only LiDAR, other active technologies, similar thing. In the automotive world, another main advantage, we're less prone to mutual interferences between sensors. So big advantages of being passive. In addition to that, our technology is, it's more dense. There's more pixels per square inch, and therefore the more pixels you get, the more information you get on the environment, the better the detection, the further down you can see. We're adding thermal technology so we can deal better on the harsh weather and lighting conditions. And in the end of the day, it doesn't always fall on technology. There's always the cost. And as we're using cameras are cheaper than LiDAR. And just to mention a recent announcement, we just recently announced a co-development agreement we're developing with a leading defense integrator here in Israel. They're taking our technology and replacing the LiDAR solutions with our solutions. And again, this relates to being, not being detected out there. And this is for a few defense-related projects.
No, it's fantastic. And congratulations on that news, too. We know that's a big deal for you guys. As we're talking about this, it is, absolutely. And as we're covering that angle, actually, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about the business side of it. Talk a little bit about your customers and your clients. Is it OEMs? Is it government contracts? Where is the bulk of your business going to, and who are your customer base?
Okay, so in terms of first of all, let's talk a little bit about the markets before we jump in, because we're not only dealing with one type of customers. we have a few markets. So first of all, we have the traditional market, automotive market, which is the passenger and the trucks, the regular ones you know. We have autonomous, and when I say autonomous, I mean autonomous trucks, autonomous shuttles, autonomous taxis. We have another vertical, which is the defense, as I mentioned earlier. And another very interesting one is the heavy machinery, mainly the agriculture, which is very, very, deals a lot with a stereo system. By the way, just for an example, just recently, John Deere showed at CES the latest autonomous tractor based on stereo technology. So stereo is a big thing. And we're, again, relevant for all these markets, obviously with different offerings that we have. Now that we understand each one of the verticals, in order to understand who are the customers, again, it depends on the vertical. So automotive, it's OEMs, manufacturers of vehicles, and tier ones. Here we're doing a pull-push strategy. Okay, we're pushing our technology to the tier ones because they're probably the ones that will integrate our technology to their solution, to the customer, to the vehicle manufacturer. And we're doing a pull as well in order to interest these vehicles so they can point out to their tier ones and say, hey, amazing technology, go and talk to them. So automotive, OEMs, and tier ones. Defense, system integrators, these are our direct customers, but the end customers will be for them, the armies. Heavy machinery and agriculture, mainly platform manufacturers and technology developers for these fields. And the autonomous vehicles, usually they're developing their own technology. So we're talking to them. So depending on the vertical, different customers.
That's fantastic. Okay, now that we know a little bit about the markets too, this is something I'm really excited to dive into. The global supply crunch and the supply chain issues that we've had, specifically since the beginning of COVID, right? How have you guys weathered that, and has it affected the markets that you're in, but more specifically your product and what you're getting out to your customer base?
Actually, this didn't affect us almost at all. As I mentioned, I think in the beginning, we're a software company. And by being a software company, we're actually agnostic to the supply chain issue. We use hardware in our R&D process, but it's quite minor. So from our point of view, it's not an issue.
That's fantastic. Okay, it's good news. And obviously we also want to talk about the global presence that you guys have, right? Go deeper on the China presence and the exposure that you have there. What kind of traction do you guys have in China? Why is that market so important to you? But where do you see the growth potential with it from where you've already gone as well?
Okay. So China, I don't know the people out there if they know or not, but China is the largest automotive market in the world. And it's backed up with strong governmental support. A lot of these companies actually are government-owned companies. And they're having a big shift from local production to global vehicle export. And as they're doing so, they're looking for disruptive technology to enable higher levels of autonomy. And this is why, for us, we are very interesting for them. And in terms of market traction, so first of all, in order to deal better with the Chinese market, we announced that recently, we established a fully owned local subsidiary in China, which is called Foresight Shenzhou Automotive Limited, not very far from Shanghai. And this enables us to do local business development and partnerships with the local Chinese companies. Again, and it's backed with local employees as well. In addition to that, we already announced an MOU of cooperation with Cherry Technology, a global Chinese vehicle manufacturer, and Guide IR, a thermal camera manufacturer, the leading one in China. We announced a cooperation agreement with a company called Sunway AI technology, in order to commercialize autonomous technologies to the Chinese agriculture market. And obviously, we have currently a few multiple proof of concept projects with leading vehicle manufacturers. So in China is a very big market. They're very hungry to reach higher level of autonomy and move to global export. And we believe that our technology will help Chinese to reach their goals.
That's great. So the global presence is staying strong. Let's talk a little bit more in a macro sense, right? When you talk about the biggest drivers of the business, but the biggest opportunities for you guys too. You already have the presence in China. You've got a presence globally, obviously. But where are the biggest opportunities for you guys in Q2, Q3, the rest of this year, and moving into the next couple of years as well?
Okay, so I think the key drivers for our business, which are in favor for us right now, is first of all for the defense. Okay, again, I think we have a slide here of a sales cycle. I don't know if we can bring it up. Not this one, this one. Great. I want to very quickly explain how it works. You know, when we go out to customers, the first stage is engagement with prototypes, selling prototypes, doing tests, doing technical roadshows. By the way, next week we're in Germany doing a technical roadshow with great companies. The next stage is proof of concepts. Okay, proof of concept. This is where we do some we tailor proof of concepts together with the end customer in order for him better to understand our technology. The recent announcement from the defense world is about the co-development. So that's where we are currently in the end of the day. And obviously, as you go up the ladder, and I'll talk about in a minute, you get more revenue. But the next stage, obviously, after co-development is design win, and in the end of the day, mass production. So where are we now at the moment? So at the moment, we are at the point that currently we, first of all, again, we're doing software. We're dealing with software. And the business model here is software license. And by the way, very interestingly, we have an open approach in comparison to a black box approach. You know, a black box approach, which is a sealed box of a sensor. We're a software company. We can adapt to exactly the requirements of the end customer in tailoring it exactly to the platform. By the way, this entails additional revenue for maintenance and support and some integration activities. But for each one of the verticals I mentioned, we have a different go-to-market strategy with the relevant technological software offerings. Now, in terms of revenue, 2021, we reported revenue for the first time, $120,000 from a proof of concept for the leading European OEM. In 2022, this year, we expect to get quite a few POCs and a few co-developments. We announced already the first one. And just for your knowledge, an average POC is somewhere around $100,000, and a co-development, a few hundreds of thousands of dollars. We announced 250 recently. So you can do the math when we jump to 2022. 2023 will be more focused on co-developments. You know, we're doing a lot of POCs, and then we'll shift to the co-developments. And we'll get the first mass production order from the defense side. And therefore, the revenue scale in 2023 will be even higher. And then we believe the automotive industry, which is the biggest one, probably will follow after all. So this is really in a nutshell from a business model and revenue aspect.
Perfect. Okay, so there's a couple of questions from our chat that we want to break down. But one thing we want to cover before that, let's talk about the R&D process a little bit. It's the one thing we haven't really been able to get into. How long does the technology take to develop? Is it there yet? What does the R&D roadmap look like for you guys with where you've come and where you're at right now, but also the roadmap for the future as well? Can you give us any insight there?
Again, I don't want, this is not an technical session here, but I'll just mention that most of the R&D efforts are already behind us. Okay, what is left is actually tailoring to the needs of the customer. Again, we're a software company. I'm not giving a black box sensor, take it and leave it, or leave it. This is what you have. No, we're coming from a software approach. So most of it is done. Because we need to tailor it to the customer, we have to do some hardware adaptation, using different types of cameras or different chips, and tailoring to the specific vertical as well, because each vertical has different needs. And obviously, they will have to do some adoptions as we move to mass production to meet different standards and regulation for mass production. So most of it is done. Whatever's left is tailoring. And when we reach mass production, we'll have to do the adjustments for the standards and regulation needed from each vertical.
Perfect. Okay, so one question from our chat as well that we want to cover. When you're talking about the LiDAR technology that we already talked about and the differences from what you guys do, David Turner asked, is the technology similar to submarine sonar? Do you see any similarities there? Is there a significant difference that we should know of? What's your take on that?
No, sonar is, they send energy out in order to hit something and get a feedback or get a reflection of what they hit, and then you know what's going on under the water. We're actually staring at the environment. We're based on either the sun, hits an object, so we can get the reflection from that, or from the headlamps of the vehicle. This is when we use the regular cameras. And thermal cameras, we're actually using emissivity, heat. Each object has its own emissivity, and different emissivity within the environment helps us to pick up the objects out there. But both of them are completely passive. We just stare at the environment, collect the information, and provide all the outputs needed. And it's a big thing, it's both in the defense world and in the automotive world.
Perfect. No, it's a good clarification. Doron, I know before we start to wrap, you have some video content that we wanted to play for the audience as well. Do we have that queued up and ready to go? See if we can get the producers on that. But can you tell us a little bit about this before it goes on to what is the video content we're about to see?
The two videos here. Again, these are the ones which I believe, or we believe, that these are the shortcomings, the most hot, the biggest hot potatoes that are coming out from Foresight. The first one is what we call it's actually a solution called mono to stereo. Basically, we're taking existing cameras which are on the vehicle already, which are doing completely other things. For example, a NIDAS camera on the top, and in the grill, a parking camera. So each one is doing a completely different application. We're taking the raw data out of it and creating 3D perception. Why is this important? In the automotive industry, ADAS systems today doesn't work very well. They're looking at ways to enhancing for making it better detection, better classification, better distance measurements. What you see here in the video, camera 2 is an ADAS camera. Camera 1 is a fisheye camera. And basically, we create the disparity map. Okay, can we move back a little bit, if you don't mind? Just back up, and the producer can do that. That would be great. Ooh. Just a second. Okay, yeah, great. So camera number 2 is an ADAS camera, which is doing completely other applications. Camera number 1 is a parking camera in this specific case. You see it's a fisheye. It's a very distorted image. We take the two images, create the disparity map, top right. This is the basic output of a stereo camera. And the overlay on the top left is basically taking the disparity, putting it on camera 2, just to show how accurate our disparity, that it sits beautifully on the objects out there. Why is this important? Again, ADAS doesn't work very well, but most importantly, it's a software solution. We're not adding any additional hardware. The guys don't want to add hardware. If we can bring a piece of software and enhance their capabilities of ADAS systems, it's a big thing. And we have already 2 proof of concepts, one which we finished with a European OEM, and one we're currently in the beginning, and I'm sure there'll be more of these, and this is a very big thing. This is one thing. The next video, this is more related to the defense area. I mentioned defense, we're passive, a big advantage as opposed to other sensors out there. What do you do with it? Okay, so usually in the defense world, it's mainly thermal cameras, okay, dealing in harsh weather and lighting conditions. What you see here, that's a point cloud. That's a different representation of the depth map I showed you earlier. Visible cameras on the top and thermal cameras on the bottom. Sorry, it plays very quick. We use it for terrain analysis, for example. This was taking, you'll see it. Okay. I think the producers are trying to help me, but that's okay. Let's continue. The terrain analysis, and this, what you'll see here, you'll see actually a point cloud on the right side. Okay, that's a point cloud. Every pixel has its XYZ location in space. This was taking at complete darkness, and we can do tons of stuff based on that. Measure distances, a hill, if we can go up or down, we know the angle of the hill. If there are ditches or obstacles in front of us, there are many things. Another thing here is the field of view. We're not a closed black box solution. We're a software company. In this case, we're showing an example of using different field of views of cameras. A wide field of view on the top, 90 degrees, and we can do much higher than that. At the bottom, 32 field of view, and you'll see the different field of views, you have different information which you can get. And another thing, the object measurement. We talked about the point cloud. Another interesting thing, for example, is using measurements. Imagine you're with a very big platform driving through this, and you want to go through this tunnel. You're not sure if you can actually pass through it. You can actually take your cursor, ping the height and the width of this tunnel by using the point cloud and know the exact measurements and therefore know if you can cross it or not. So in this case, it's 4.67 meters and the height is 4.26. So this is what we're offering to the defense world. The defense world, we shifted, as I showed in the sales cycle, already to the co-development. So we're already moving one step higher in the sales cycle towards mass production. So we're very excited from it.
Outstanding. Well, Doron Cohadier, VP of Business Development at Foresight Autonomous, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. We've gotten a lot of insights. Anything else you want to leave with us to look out for in the near future before we end the segment?
I just want to say again that Foresight Automotive is taking stereo to the next step, when we are the experts in stereo. We believe we're in the right place in the different verticals we're aiming at, and we're at the right time. Okay, we're meeting different market trends which are relevant to us today. For example, defense being stealth, automotive enhancing sensing capabilities. And I believe that these are really, really, really exciting times for Foresight.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Doron Cohadier, thank you so much for joining us this morning, coming on and talking about everything you guys are doing. We look forward to chatting again soon.
Yeah, thank you very much. Take care and good morning. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. All right, producer Aaron, before we get moving to our next segment, Benzinga Live, which I believe we have fill-ins today with Spencer out at the craps table or whatever he's doing in Vegas. We do want to mention our sponsor for All Access, Ticker. If you want perks for owning company stocks, Ticker has revolutionized how everyday investors are rewarded for brand loyalty by connecting consumers with perks for the brands they own. You can see what perks you qualify for today by going to ticker.com/Benzinga, TIICKER.com/Benzinga, or clicking the link in the chat description. For viewers of this stream and everybody that watches an All Access show every single week, Ticker gives you a $20 Amazon gift card for signing up and linking your brokerage. All you need to do is create an account, confirm the email, and click the Benzinga All Access listener checkbox in the profile page, and your $20 Amazon gift card will be on the way to your inbox. So with that being said, Foresight Autonomous having given us a presentation, producer Aaron, do we have the hosts of Benzinga Live ready to come on and take the show away? Oh, we have a Ticker video. All right. We're out of order. We're going to play the Ticker video, and then we're going to move into Benzinga Live. We have a sponsored video.
What is Ticker? That's right, Ticker with 2 I's, just like you. Because it's for you, for investing, for stock perks, for connecting you to public companies who reward you as a shareholder, as a brand lover. That's why people can't stop tickering. Ticker, where investors discover shareholder perks and consumers become investors in the brands they love. Ticker. Start tickering today.